What up, man? Y'all know the vibes. If you woke up this morning, you already won. I hope you are doing something right now that your future self will thank you for. It's your boy Earl of Pearl, and I got the homie Daniel Oyefusi joining me, man, to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Listen, the Cleveland Browns are ranked number 32 in ESPN's way too early 2026 power rankings. That's dead last.
I
At the
ain't put
same
32.
time, Todd Monken is building out his coaching staff, retaining key voices while hiring new ones and expanding the defensive coordinator search. So, which one is real? The internal belief that this roster could have won more games, or the national perception that this team is at the bottom? Me and Daniel will get into that next. But first, we got to hear from our sponsor and let you know what today's show and who today's show is brought to you by. This episode of the Ultimate 216 Show is brought to you by Mally's. All you need is love and chocolate. This Valentine's Day, be ready to say those three little words. I got Mally's. From friendship to love to every situationship in between, Mally's has the perfect chocolate to say what you feel. Our famous covered strawberries and grapes are back in stores February 13th and 14th, and the rest of your Valentine's Day favorites like the gold cup assortments, the full wrap solid milk and dark chocolate hearts, the peanut butter, the caramel, and the raspberry and marshmallow filled hearts, and so much more are in stores and online now. This Valentine's Day, say it with Mally's. There it is, y'all, man. Daniel, so like I said, bro, man, thank you for joining me today, taking time out your busy schedule. If y'all don't know, Daniel covers the Cleveland Browns by way of ESPN. You see where he previously landed. If you don't follow Daniel on X, you see his handle. Go ahead and make sure you shoot him a follow. Also, like, subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and ring the bell to stay in the know of this spinoff show and the rest of them. Daniel, man, let's get started. So, the latest news in the coaching hire is in the coaching cycle, should I say, the Cleveland Browns have just hired their special teams coordinator, I think yesterday, by the name of Byron Storer. Tell us a little bit about his background when went into that hire. Also, the Cleveland Browns made the decision to retain Duce Staley as the running backs coach. Take us into what into those two moves.
Yeah, well, first with the hiring of Byron Storer as the special teams coordinator, previously of the Green Bay Packers, but has also spent time in Oakland with Rich Bisaccia. Hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Who is also a longtime special teams coordinator and really like one of like the top special teams coordinators in the NFL. So it's a nice tree to kind of pluck from if you're Todd Monken and trying to revitalize this special teams unit that's been one of the league's worst over the past couple of years with Bubba Ventrone now taking another job. Yeah, I mean that's just we're getting there in terms of the coaching staff being assembled, and obviously, like as you mentioned, Duce Staley being retained as running backs coach. He's not the only coach on the offensive side that's been retained. Christian Jones, who was a tight ends coach, is now moving over to wide receivers, and he has some experience coaching wide receivers as an assistant wide receivers coach in Minnesota. But I like the move to keep Duce Staley. I mean, he is a respected running backs coach. He's got some really productive. He's produced some really productive rooms over the past couple of years, and even this past year working with Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson, and even late in the year when Judkins went down, and you have Travion Williams and Rocket Sanders who were coming in without a lot of touches and playing impactful roles. I thought that was a really smart move to keep him. He's a guy again that's respected amongst players, not just in the running back room, but across the entire team. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll probably get into it a little bit, but now we're really waiting for the defensive coordinator decision, what he does, whether it's promoting somebody internal or bringing somebody outside to replace Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, you brought up Christian Jones. You brought up they kept the assistant offensive line coach. Just talk about how Todd Monken seems to be balancing new voices with continuity as he's building out this staff, because he didn't just completely overhaul everything. So just talk about how important it is to have that balance as you build a staff as a first-time head coach.
Yeah, well, obviously, when you're a first time head coach, when you're a head coach coming into a new job, like you wanna bring your guys. You want to bring guys who are fluent in your system. And just think about it. Like if you're trying to teach a new scheme and like you think of it as a language barrier, you want somebody that's fluent to kind of help you with the translation. While Todd Monken is going to be calling plays on offense, he's the head coach. So, when you talk about Travis Switzer, who he's bringing in, who's the run game coordinator in Baltimore, he's bringing him in. He's worked with him for the past 3 seasons, especially with the run game. So he can speak Todd Monken's language fluently to Shedeur Sanders, to Deshaun Watson, to Dylan Gabriel, to the rest of the offense. So you want to bring in your guys, but at the same time, like you look at the totality of the staff, and I think that while Browns fans might be down on the entire staff and Kevin Stefanski, I don't think that everybody on that staff was a bad coach. So you do an internal kind of audit of your coaching staff, and you see, okay, who's young and still maybe has a bright future that we can develop and get something to give, something to provide. Maybe they didn't work directly with Todd Monken, but they worked in similar schemes and they're able to help with that transition in teaching. So I think that's a part of it. We knew that the defensive staff was going to stay in place by and large, as Jimmy Haslam said. But on offense, it was going to be interesting to see, where was the overlap and, what guys maybe would stay on. Because, again, the entire coaching staff, wasn't bad. There's still some really good coaches in there.
So we've seen internal interviews with Ephraim Bonda and Jason Tarver already, and reports say the Browns want to interview guys like Jonathan Cooley and Mike Rutenberg as well. What does it say about Todd Monken starting to widen up that search as he looked for the next defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns?
Well, yeah, what's so fascinating about this is that, we know that Todd Monken said he's not going to change the scheme, and we know that the defensive staff is going to remain in place. But, I think we all kind of think that it would make sense for him to promote, whether it's Banda or Tarver or somebody like that, and just kind of keep that consistency and, allow for a smooth transition. But, as head coach now, like this is a real opportunity for him to put his stamp on the entire team. We know that he's going to put his stamp on the offense. He's bringing his scheme. But on the defense side of the ball, it's an opportunity for him to really, put his stamp and put a guy in there that he really, really trusts. And I know one name that wasn't brought up yet, but, we should look out for and just keep an eye out for is Corey Unlin, the Texans pass game coordinator. He was a guy who worked with Monken with the Jaguars when Monken was out there, in the late 2000s, and he also coached under Jim Schwartz, when he was as a defensive backs coach when Schwartz was the defensive coordinator there. So I think that's kind of like the perfect marriage of somebody who has like been there, done that, seen the scheme and how it's run. But has also, been to a lot of different parts. You talk about the 1 year as a DC in Detroit, his time with San Francisco, his time now in Houston, where he can keep, the core of the defense in place, but also throw in some new wrinkles. Because we know that if you're staying stagnant, you're getting worse. You got to keep on improving and throw some new stuff. And I think that'd be a welcome sight for a defense that was really good, but still also has some shortcomings at the end of the day.
So speaking of that defense, as of course the Super Bowl is over and we're starting to approach some key dates in the NFL schedule. And one of those dates is February 17th. And that is when teams can start to designate franchise and transition tags all the way through March 3rd or 4th. I believe a name that I think a lot of fans will be keeping an eye out on is Devin Bush. Talk about the Cleveland Browns' plans to potentially try to keep Devin Bush in-house. He had 2 hell of years up under Jim Schwartz in that scheme, and I'm pretty sure the Browns are trying to hold on to him in some shape, fashion, or form.
Yeah, I mean, they love what he's done over the past 2 seasons, especially with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Obviously, sustaining that devastating neck injury. He's really just stepped right in and been great. I mean, it's been like a resurgence of his career, honestly, because he was a top rookie with the Steelers, and then he had a really nasty knee injury, bounced around a little bit, but he's really caught his footing here. He said that he wants to be back. I'm sure the Browns would like to bring him back, but it's going to cost a little bit more than the $3 million that he was paying on this past year. He's due for a big pay raise. When it comes to the franchise tag, transition tag, I don't anticipate that. I think that's a little bit too pricey. When you look at what it would cost on a 1-year deal, that's all hitting 1 year of the cap. But I think it is a situation. His contract voids as well before. Just deep in the weeds with the cap situation. But that's a situation where he might want to field some offers and see what teams are offering and see really what his value is before maybe come back to the table and negotiating with the Browns. But definitely wouldn't be surprised to see a long-term deal. He signed a 1-year deal 2 years ago, signed a 1-year deal last year. Wouldn't be surprised for him to get some long-term stability after 2 really good years. And he's the only free agent starter on defense.
So I think it was 2 days ago now. I seen a clip on Instagram from the Cleveland Browns account when Todd Monken sat down with Nathan Segura, and one of the things that he talked about was, being tasked with the responsibility of building out a scheme to where players can play fast and play physical. Talk about the emphasis on that and how much different it was schematically from the last season, the last 2 seasons.
Well, in regards to Todd Monken's offense, I think that the really cool thing about it is that like he's almost like a chameleon. I was watching there was a lot of talk about just how like he's been able to run a lot of schemes, and I was watching this presentation he did with the Harbaugh Coaching Academy back in 2023, his first year with the Ravens, and he went through like all of his coaching stops, and he was talking about coaching like under Lou Holtz and Les Miles and being in Notre Dame and LSU, and then going to Oklahoma State and running the air raid, and then going to Georgia and running power. It's like he really can do it all. And I don't think that anybody can necessarily say like he's going to run this specific offense for the Cleveland Browns. When he says that it's going to be fit to the skill set of his players, and he's not going to try to fit a round peg in a square hole or whatever. Like I really believe that. I think that there's going to be principles like you talk about, like being physical, having speed, and being fast. I think like those are kind of like core principles. But really, like it's really going to come down to who the Browns have at quarterback. There's core principles, but I think that he's shown the ability to kind of mend and his scheme to the skill sets of his quarterbacks. And you look at the 3 quarterbacks in the Browns quarterback room, they all have 3 very different skill sets. So I think that whether it's Deshaun, whether it's Shador, whether it's maybe even Dylan Gabriel, like you're going to see some core tenets of a Todd Monken offense in terms of the physicality and the motion and whatnot. But then he'll be able to really fuse with the skill set of the quarterback and try to maximize their skill set.
You talk about the quarterback skill set, and you talk about the elements of, Todd Monken's offense and what he liked to do and being able to adapt. Just based on what we know those key components to be of the quarterbacks that's currently in that room, who do you think prioritizes skill set wise or more in alignment, should I say, with what it is that Todd Monken wants to do?
Yes, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I just wrote a story that published on ESPN.com on Tuesday about like some like the core principles that Monken has really like laid out in terms of having an explosive offense and keys to winning. And one of those things he talked about is like QB off schedule explosives, and he's like, hey, like it's the one thing where it's like he's like statues are out, athletes are in, and he's like no matter what type of offense you run, like you got to have a guy who every couple plays in a game, he when things go wrong, he can make a play. And I think that when you look at that on the surface, you talk about okay, well, like what are the kind of traits that Monken would like when you talk about QB off schedule? You look at like Deshaun and like peak Deshaun, and he remains the wild card because we know what he's been at his best in Houston, and we know that he hasn't been able to reach those heights in Cleveland because of injuries and whatnot. And it's fair to question, like with 2 Achilles injuries, with another year removed from playing, like how does that going to impact his physical ability? But then you look at a guy like Shador, who is more of like a drop back passer, maybe in his at his core, but he's shown the ability to make plays off script. And those 7 starts that he made at the end of the year, he was top 10 in both scramble yards and scramble passing yards. So when he was scrambling around and then he ended up taking off, he was top 10 in terms of yards there. When he was scrambling around to make a throw, he was top 10 there. So when you really look at Shador, you can see a world where it's like, all right, he's shown that, against NFL caliber athletes, he can make plays at times. He's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not a Josh Allen, but he can create off schedule. So if you like take that at his best off schedule. And then you say, okay, well, let's get you to play in structure, in rhythm, really understand defenses and dissect them from the pocket. Now we're working with something there. I don't think that his rookie year was as bad as maybe like those advanced metrics show.
I agree.
And I think that there is like a quality quarterback there. If you can get him to really, really play well in structure, and to play with timing, which I know he wants to do, but then mix some of that those off schedule plays that we saw like in the Tennessee game late in that game, and he was mounting that comeback.
All right, so that leads me to my next question, because I mean you was there during the press conference the day that Kevin Stefanski was relieved of his duties. I was listening and I was watching, and Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry both spoke to the point to where they thought that this roster was good enough to win more games than what it won last season. And then I go back to what I heard from Todd Monken. It is my job to build a scheme that allows players to play fast and to play physical. So just from you know, what you've observed, does this say more about the Todd Monken hire? I mean, is this more about unlocking the talent that the Browns believe is there, or is that's a situation to where nationally the perception of the Browns is not that good to where the roster is that bad and you need that much of an overhaul to run what it is that Todd Monken wants to run?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. And I think two things can be true. I think multiple things can be true at the same time. The Browns were a 5-1 team. 5-1 team, yes. They were capable of winning more games than they did last year. Correct. But at the same time, this roster, especially on offense, was not anywhere near the caliber of offense that it needed to be for the Browns to be a legitimate playoff team or contender. And I think that the hiring of Monkin is more so to maybe raise the floor of an offense. They're not going to bring in 11 new starters.
Right.
They're not going to do that. They need to. They wanted to find somebody that can work with the current guys that they have, build up the current guys that they have, and try to maximize them as much as possible. So I think that the hiring of Monkin is a move that you make to maybe raise the floor of this young offensive roster. But now it's up to Andrew Berry to add guys, on offense that can raise, the ceiling. I think coaching sets the floor, and then the talent sets the ceiling. So right now, when you bring in Monken, it's that's a veteran offensive mind that we know, hey, we might not have, we might have the youngest offense in the NFL again, but we know that it's going to be a more crisp offense, a more functional offense than we've had over the past 2 seasons. And then if you're able to unlock something at quarterback, if you're able to add some talent, now you're looking at a team that's legitimately competing for a playoff spot with what we expect to still be a real good defense.
Yo, it's funny that you put it that way, because I was going back and just doing some studying of what it is that Todd Monken likes to do. It's a lot of 21 personnel. You're going to see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, a lot of dual running backs in the backfield. And for whatever reason, Dylan Sampson was the first person that came to my mind, because it just seemed like it was hard for us to identify a defined role for him last year. And then just knowing how Todd Monken likes to run his offense, when you come out there with that type of personnel, it allows the quarterback to, view what the defense is doing and audible pass to run based off of what is being shown. And when we talk about, as we get through this offseason, guys that's going to be able to benefit the most, for some odd reason, man, he's up there already towards the top of the list of guys that I think can, benefit the most from Todd Monken being the head coach.
Yeah, so when I was watching that presentation at the Harbaugh Coaching Academy, one of the core tenets of explosive offense is getting to the perimeter. How do you get to the perimeter? Is it sweeps? Is it zone? How do you do that? And I thought about Dylan Sampson, because I think about Shador's first start when he hit him on that screen and he was able to get some blocking, and then he was able to get to the perimeter and beat the defense to the end zone. And I think of that because it's I think also to when Monken was talking about his at his press conference about every NFL athlete, every NFL player is elite. They have something that got them to where they are. Now it's just a matter of finding that trait and then like maximizing. Like I thought of Dylan Sampson. Like he might not be like he's not going to be a Quinshon Judkins between the tackles, 15 to 20 carries type of guy. But can you use him in a similar way as like the Ravens did Keaton Mitchell, where they brought him in and they were running toss sweeps and they were running screens and they were running plays that was able to get him to the outside and showcase his ability. I was even thinking about like a guy like Isaiah Bond, who I think like there was a lot of meat left on the bone in his rookie year as a deep threat. And it's like, all right, like how can we scheme up plays where we're getting him vertical and we're getting him behind the defense, or we're using him as a decoy to open up stuff underneath. I think that again, like when I talk about raising the floor, it's like finding those skill sets in guys. Like there's talent on the offense side of the ball for the Browns. I think they need to add some guys, but there is talent to work with. So now it's like bringing in a coach that can highlight, really isolate those skill sets and, put them all together in ways that they shine and they're productive.
All right, man. So, final question before we move on and have some fun. Everybody by now read the article on ESPN, the way too early 2026 NFL rankings and projections. And you were one of the writers that was a part of that. I think the question is simple, and you can elaborate on that. When I seen that 30-second ranking, I didn't agree with that. Do you agree with us being ranked 32 out of 32? Why or why not?
I don't agree. I was honestly surprised that they were that low, especially because like nothing is really, I don't know, not much has changed since week 17, 18. Oh, obviously, there's a new coaching place, but in terms of like the personnel, nothing has changed. Now you could debate whether going from Stefanski to Monkin is a downgrade or not. But yeah, I thought 32 was just that was way too low. I mean, they're still gonna have I think a really good defense, even if there's a little bit of a drop off. And I mean, there's no way up. There's no way to go but up with this offense. So I definitely would not say they're 32. Like 32, when you say 32 out of 32, that's the worst team in the NFL. I would not say that as of now.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I agree with you because like when I seen it, I'm like, no, I can think of a few teams off the top of my head that got way worse rosters than what the Cleveland Browns have. I mean, at least we got 95 and 21. At least we got a stout defense that's been intact, that got some chemistry. There's teams like if you want to name Tennessee, yeah, they got Cam Ward, but what else they got around them, right? The Jets kind of just traded away all their premier players and seem to be starting over. The Las Vegas Raiders, man, they got a lot of money in the number one pick, but outside of Brock Bowers and Genty, like it ain't much on that roster either. So it's easy to always poo-poo the Cleveland Browns if you ask me, man. But as we move on to the final segment of the show, it is time to have some fun. But of course, like, subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube page. Use that QR code, man. We are trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, man. We appreciate all the love and support. So use that code, like, subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show's YouTube page. So, Daniel, it is Black History Month. And during Black History Month, I like to, recognize it, talk about it, and things like that. And I had a couple questions that I needed to ask you personally before we get to this or that game. But we are both young Black men that is blessed and privileged to cover professional sports. And just as a young Black reporter covering the NFL on a national platform, just how conscious of your voice, the representation, and what does that all mean to you when you kind of take a step back and be like, damn, I'm here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's something that I don't take lightly. Representation is always important. And I understand. A lot of times, or there have been times when, you walk into rooms and you're one of a few, and it kind of holds a higher weight. Because you're setting a standard, you're setting a path for others to kind of to come behind you, and like we made a lot of progress in terms of representation and whatnot, but we still have I think a lot of work to do. So it's something that I definitely don't take lightly, and it's one of those things where when I got my foot in the door, I always wanted to make sure that I kind of paid it back, and try to make sure that somebody else got help or got counsel, or I was able to be a mentor for somebody else to kind of keep that pipeline going.
Yeah, I don't think people understanding is not just cliche when we say like things like this are bigger than us. I think about people like G. Bush, who, when I was in media school, he was answering every email. Like anytime that I needed some advice, he was right there. And you understand that you have an obligation to pay it forward because, quite honestly, we're not former NFL athletes, NBA athletes, MLB athletes, and we are blessed to do what we do. And sometimes people who don't have that sports background as far as being the athlete, they get discouraged by chasing these type of careers, especially how you see the landscape and how it changed. And so, to be that positive face and positive figure, and have that heart to want to put on for other people, like that's where it's at, man. Second question before we get to having some fun. I'm from Cleveland, you from Baltimore. Name some like culture and similarities that Baltimore and Cleveland has.
Um, man, culture is similar. Well, I would say like like I said it before. Like, I think that if sometimes it feels like home in terms of just being like a real like blue collar type city. Um, it's like I'll be scrolling on TikTok and they'll be like, how people from Cleveland, how Cleveland dudes be like or whatever, and then some of the mannerisms and whatnot, I'd be like, oh, like that's how we are in Baltimore. Obviously, like the accent's different, some of the cultures and different in terms of what we wear and what we eat and stuff like that. But yeah, just having like that little that kind of blue collar ruggedness to you for sure. I definitely keep that.
Like how y'all say two is
Too
crazy.
like yeah, like I don't have the hard accent like every once in a while because I'm from the county, so every once in a while like it'll come out. If I'm speaking real fast or whatever, like it'll come out. Somebody be like, oh, I heard that accent real hard, but I don't have like the two. Like I don't have like the hard two accent. Like it's like you got to get me like in a certain situation, speaking fast, blah blah blah, like real emotional where the Baltimore accent might come out. But yeah,
All right, so it's time to have some fun now, right? So me and G Bush did this on the barbershop channel yesterday. It was a little bit of this and that, and it basically tied into Black History Month, tied into the culture of Black people, and tied into Cleveland culture as well. So there's a few things in there that tie into your city. Number one on this or that, you can't be on the fence. You got to just pick a side and stay there. I got to start with this one. You knew it was coming. The Wire or Power?
I mean, come on, man. I'm from Baltimore. Like, of course, I'm gonna say The Wire. Like, that's a classic. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say The Wire as well. The Wire is actually my all-time favorite series. Like, I even got Wire.
Understand me? We back up.
You know what I mean? I have that, all the time on my radio show on 92.3 The Fan. I got Omar drop like, hey yo, listen here, babe. You come at the king, you best not miss. So
Yes, exactly.
me, like The Wire is just one of those timeless TV series to where you could tell they was ahead of their time, but they damn sure couldn't come on TV now the way that the climate is with some of
Oh
the
yeah,
things
it's a
we
little.
talk about.
Yeah, it's a little
Like,
different. Some stuff not slide.
yeah, like a lot of that wouldn't slide. No shade, no shade to Power whatsoever, because Power probably ranks as the close second of things that I will watch over and
Like this
over.
generation for sure. For this generation for sure.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. All right, let's talk about a little bit of music. Rap groups, right? My hometown group, Bone Thugs and Harmony, they actually did a
Mm-hmm.
versus against this group, or 3-6 Mafia.
Man, I gotta go with the 3-6 Mafia, man. I like the downside. I like they're so iconic too with like that sound. Like I feel like that sound got really like so many artists had like got inspiration from that and like flipped it. And even now, like you hear so much influence with the samples or whatnot. I gotta go 3-6 Mafia.
Man, you already know I'm going with my hometown, Bone Thugs and Harmony. It's the thuggish, rugged Bone. Like, fun fact, people in Cleveland, we play first of the month every single month on the first, no matter what it is, right? Like, I'm dead serious, bro. Like, first of the month is one of those things to where it just got to be played. A lot of timeless classics. I definitely rock with 3-6 Mafia, but I'm staying with the hometown. All right, now this is where it's going to get spicy. It
Okay.
might be some beef on this platform, y'all.
Okay.
Crab cakes or Polish boys?
Taking a crab cake, man. Come on now. That's not even a discussion. Crab cakes for the
Hey,
win.
I put the Polish boy up against anything from any other city. You know, Philly, come over here with your cheesesteaks. Like, do y'all got any other? So you know, we got the Polish boy and the corned beef. Like, do y'all got any other go tos outside of the crab cakes? That's like a staple.
I mean, it's the crab cakes. It's the blue crabs. You know, we throw the Old Bay on it. Like, come on now. Like,
Okay. I feel that. All right, let's go back to the music scene. J. Cole or Kendrick?
Kendrick, like that's Kendrick. Kendrick, like my top 1A, 1B favorite rapper. I do like J. Cole. I liked his last album that he just dropped. But Kendrick is different. It's just different. Like that's all I say. Like it's just different with Kendrick. So
I gotta go with J. Cole. It's the storytelling of J. Cole for me, man. It's the subtle
but
vibe.
I
It's,
feel
it's
like Kendrick does everything that J. Cole does, but on like a higher, deeper level. I feel like I've always said I feel like J. Cole provide like he does what Kendrick does, but he does it in a more digestible manner. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So like I mean, and J. Cole's pen is like ridiculous. Like he is one of the best like just rappers, like songwriter, you know, just lyricist ever. But Kendrick with the artistry, the music, the concepts, the albums, it's just different. I guess.
The temperament is different. It's almost like our old head coach and a new head coach. The temperament is just a little different. Let's get to the TV scene. Martin or Fresh Prince?
Oh man, that's really hard. It's funny because I was watching like these BT reruns a couple weeks back. And I don't know. I would probably say Fresh Prince like before, but I don't know. Martin just I feel like Martin's funnier, honestly. I feel like Martin's funnier to me, like honestly. So I might go with Martin over Fresh Prince.
I'm gonna go with Fresh Prince. I think Fresh Prince of all the classic sitcoms that we have grown up to love, Fresh Prince is number one for me. It's hard to really put anything up against a Martin or like a Jamie Foxx or like even a Wayne's Brothers. Like
Jamie
Wayne's
Foxx
Brothers
show
was
is
funny as
hilarious.
hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know what I'm saying? Anything with John Witherspoon had you cracking up on another level. But I'm gonna go ahead and go Fresh Prince. We got two more before we get up out of here. Second to last, house party era or club era?
I mean, so me, if I was like a couple years younger, I might say like club, but I feel like a nice house party is just a vibe. Like whether it's a kickback, whether it's like a real full out party, you just had the crib, you got your peoples over. Because the club is like it's not, you know, you with a bunch of randoms. If you got a section, the club might be cool. But even then, when you're in the comfort of like your own space or whatever, you thought I'm gonna go house party. I like house party.
I'm gonna go house party because I can think about house parties back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was just trying to have some fun. It really wasn't nobody trying to hurt somebody. And if you did have some beef, like you kind of fought it out. It just seemed like I got older and being on the club scene came with a little bit more on a bad side than what you kind of like.
Like it's a wild card. You don't know. Like it could take a twist. But the house party for the most part, as long as everybody vetted, nobody that's not supposed to be in there, not in there. Like the house party is a cool vibe.
Last one before we wrap up and get out of here. 90s R&B or 2000s R&B?
That's a good one. Oh man, I might have to do 2000s R&B. The past couple of years, I've just been on a like. I've been honestly, I think I listen to R&B more than like rap music. But yeah, it's like the early 2000s were like Music Soul Child and Floetry and like I'm a big neo soul guy. So when I think like
Long Live D'Angelo.
Yeah, long live D'Angelo. Like still feeling that.
Yeah.
So when I think of like early 2000s, I really think of like neo soul, and that's the one for me for sure. So I gotta say 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s was fire. I'm gonna go with the 90s just because of the nostalgia that I get from the 90s R&B. You know, I lost both of my parents within the last 7 years, and to me, when I hear like the Kelly Prices and when I hear like the Monica from that era, my mother was a huge Mary J. Blige fan. Tina Marie was her girl. You know what I mean? So like when I hear those type of artists, I get in this vibe that it's a Saturday, my father home off the road. We done went to B&M's. Everybody got rib dinners. The music is going. You know, we playing cards. We playing chess. We just kicking it. So either way, I can get with both. It's, it's funny that you said that because I'm noticing like the older I get, I still listen to rap music. Big Extra Plug, I listen to all the damn time. But I'm real quick to throw on some R&B and just ride because you know
I throw
like
R&B everywhere. I throw R&B on in the gym. And
like it just does something for the mind that's just a little bit different, man. But look, bro, this has been a fun episode, man. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for taking time out today. Man, y'all show Daniel some love for pulling up, having some fun. Happy Black History Month to you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. Remember, iron sharpens iron, as one person better than another. To everybody that's out there watching, man, remember, be great, spread love. Being great come with a price, and spreading love is priceless. To next week, it's your boy Earl of Pearl. Peace, love. I'm out.